Welcome to this online tutorial about ionic bonding. So last time I told you that we are going to proceed with the second section of our topic, which is structured bonds. So the first section was dealing with introduction to bonding, whereby we defined what chemical bonding means. Chemical bonding just refers to the chemical combination which occurs between atoms or elements to form compounds. So today we are going to discuss about types of bonding, starting with ionic bonding. So ionic bonding, this particularly occurs between metals and non-metals. It occurs between metals and non-metals. Ionic bonding occurs between metal atoms and atoms of a non-metal. So by definition, this is the type of bonding which involves, so this is the definition, type of bonding which involves transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal. Basically, that is the definition. Ionic bonding is the type of bonding which involves transfer of electrons, so we transfer electrons from a metal to a non-metal. So let me give you an example of compounds which exhibit this type of bonding. We have, for example, we have sodium chloride. So this is an ionic compound. Sodium chloride is an ionic compound because within the atoms exhibit, within the compound sodium chloride, the atoms exhibit ionic bonding. So this involves transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal. Within sodium chloride, we have our metal, which is sodium. So sodium is the metal. So sodium transfers electrons to chlorine, which is a non-metal. So when both of them combine in that way, we shall come up with a compound known as sodium chloride. So sodium transfers. So this arrow here is demonstrating to you transfer of electrons. Transfer of electrons. Transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal, which is chlorine. I can give you another example of an ionic compound. We have another example. Think of any compound whereby we have, within that compound, we have a metal and a non-metal. I can give you an example of magnesium oxide. Another example, this is our first example, sodium chloride. Another example, we have magnesium oxide. So magnesium oxide is also an ionic compound because within this we have our metal, magnesium, and a non-metal oxygen. So magnesium transfers electrons to a nonmetal, which is oxygen. So this arrow is demonstrating to you transfer of electrons, transfer of electrons from a metal, magnesium, to a nonmetal, oxygen, So what happens during this transfer of electrons? What happens? What do you think happens? How are these electrons transferred? And when they are transferred, what results? What is the result of transfer of electrons? So we are seeing that we transfer electrons from a metal to a nonmetal. So that means that during ionic bonding, during ionic bonding, during formation of an ionic bond, the following things happen. During ionic bonding, we are transferring electrons from a metal to a nonmetal. So a metal loses electrons. During ionic bonding, metals lose electrons, to nonmetals. Metals lose electrons to nonmetals. And this oxygen, we are transferring electrons from magnesium to oxygen. So we are adding electrons to oxygen. In simple terms, the nonmetal is gaining electrons. So nonmetals, these ones gain electrons. For them, they gain electrons from metals. They gain electrons from metals. So what happens? We are saying that metals lose electrons to nonmetals, and nonmetals gain electrons from metals. So when metals lose electrons, they form positively charged ions. Metals lose electrons to form positively charged ions. So we are going to also say that metals lose electrons, to form positively charged ions. So they lose electrons to form positively charged ions. They lose electrons to form positively charged ions. So these positively charged ions are known as cations. So also nonmetals, these ones gain electrons. They gain electrons to form negatively charged ions. Known as anions. So metals lose electrons to form positively charged ions, which we call cations, and also nonmetals gain electrons to form negatively charged ions, which are known as cations. So you are seeing that during this process, we form cations. During this process, we form positively charged ions, and we also form negatively charged ions. So positive, negative. There must be a force of attraction. Since we are having positive ions and negative ions, there must be a force of attraction binding the two, binding the cations to anions. So that force of attraction is known as an ionic bond. So we are saying that the cations and anions are attracted. Cations and anions are attracted towards each other, forming an ionic bond. Cations and anions are attracted towards each other, resulting into formation of an ionic bond. So basically, those are the fundamental facts which you need to know about ionic bonding. So we are going to demonstrate formation of an ionic bond within some compounds. So our next session, let us